key to the treasure. Nothing was as exciting and thrilling for Marie as playing in her grandmother's attic. There, you could find old things, old hats, dresses, boxes and chests, all of them filled with wonderful stuff. Marie lived in the city, but during the holidays she was sometimes allowed to visit her grandmother, and that was exactly how it was during these summer holidays. Her grandmother's house was not at all far from the sea, and Marie truly enjoyed being with her grandmother. When her grandmother took her afternoon nap, old people have this habit after lunch, Marie went up to the attic. There, she knew of a chest in which her grandmother's large dolls were kept. The chest was large and heavy and stood in one of the back corners. It took a while before Marie had cleared the way, but then she was able to lift the lid of the chest, and one by one, she took out the dolls. She was just about to close the empty chest again when something fell from somewhere inside the lid onto the bottom of the chest. Marie therefore opened the chest once more and looked to see what had made that rattling noise. On the bottom of the chest, she found a key. "Strange," said Marie, because the chest had no lock at all. It was one of those old ones that was secured with a good leather strap. What might the key fit? Marie took the key and made up her mind to ask her grandmother about it as soon as she had finished her afternoon nap and was in the mood for coffee. Her grandmother looked at the key and could not get over her amazement. "Fell out of the lid, you say? I have never seen that key before. It almost looks as if it was forged by hand. If I didn't know better, I would almost claim that it could be a key to one of those pirate chests." Marie was excited. Maybe even to a treasure chest. Who knows, but it wouldn't surprise me. Many years ago, a lot of riffraff and pirates used to roam around here. We're going on a treasure hunt, that's for sure. Let's see if Timur will come along. Timur was a boy Marie's age from the grandmother's neighborhood. He lived right there on the farm, just ahead on the left. Marie wanted to run off immediately to invite Timur to the treasure hunt. Hold on, little lady. First, I'll drink my coffee, and you should have some hot chocolate and a piece of cake to fortify yourself. Then your treasure hunt can begin." The cake was delicious. The cocoa was delicious. But then Marie wanted to go. "Timur! Timur!" she called from afar. "We're going on a treasure hunt." "Hello, Marie. Well, why are you shouting so excitedly? Is there a fire somewhere?" Timur laughed, but he was happy to see his friend Marie again. "Look what I have, a key to a real treasure chest." "Let me see." And Marie pulled the strange key out of her pocket. Timur examined the key expertly. If that's supposed to be a key to a treasure chest, then there must be a treasure map somewhere. "You're right, I hadn't even thought of that. Maybe it's where I found the key. Come with me to Grandma's attic." Marie took Timur by the hand and both set off for Grandma's house to examine the old doll chest in the attic once more, very carefully. They even took the chest downstairs with them, because in the dim half-light of the attic, it was not possible to see exactly where there might be a treasure map or any other clue to the lock that matched the key. In the bright sunlight, they turned the doll chest in every direction. From the outside, there was nothing unusual to be discovered. Nothing was stuck under the chest either. Now they examined the side walls and the floor very closely. No secret compartment, no side pocket, no suspicious crease would have escaped them. "Well," said Timur, "that leaves only the lid. But it doesn't open all the way. We'd have to unscrew the hinge." He had a real little Swiss Army knife in his trouser pocket, just in case. And it did indeed have a small but helpful screwdriver on it. 6 screws had to be loosened, but then Timur and Marie had the lid of the doll chest in their hands and could turn it over. The lid was lined with fabric, and sure enough, there was a fold here that was open. The key must have fallen out of here. Marie was excited and stuck her small hand into the fold. "I hope a big fat spider isn't living in there." Timur made a serious face. Like a bolt of lightning, Marie had her hand out of the fold again. Do you really think so? No, I only wanted to scare you. You're mean. You know perfectly well that I'm afraid of spiders. It's all right. It was just a joke. Come here. I'll put my hand in the fold. Maybe I'll feel something. And sure enough, after a while, Timur brought an old, yellowed envelope to light. The children were amazed. An envelope without an address. To be honest, I didn't really expect that, Timur admitted with a surprised look. They opened the envelope carefully, and inside was a piece of paper that had to be unfolded. Marie and Timur stared at the paper, and neither understood a word. They could not decipher the writing. It was not that it was scrawled or illegible, no. But they could not discover a single legible letter, even though the letter was neatly written all over. What does this writing mean? Timur was a little older than Marie, maybe 6 months, but he still had no idea what to do with a letter like this. Come on, let's ask Grandma. This flash of inspiration came from Marie, and she was already running into the house with the letter in her hand. Timur could only follow. When Timur arrived in the living room, Marie was just showing her find to her grandmother, who took a brief look at it and said, "Sütterlin, that's Sütterlin's script." "Grandma, what is Süderling?" "It's called Sütterlin, and it's an old German script that was written everywhere in Germany before the modern Latin handwriting." Timur was more practically minded. "Yes, and what does it say now?" "Well, written in Sütterlin, it says here, 'Dear finder of this letter, I have no idea how long the letter remained undiscovered in this chest, but today is 15th of January, 1895. Our Captain Frederick has died of scurvy, and there was a dispute over our pirate treasure. Every division resulted in new protests. In the end, we agreed to stay together, hide the treasure well, and try again in a year's time to make another attempt to divide the treasure fairly among the remaining pirates. A wise solution. So that we could find the treasure again at any time, we drew a plan, and everyone memorized it, because the plan was not a map, but a rhyme. Should none of us be left when you find the letter, and should no one have taken the treasure by then, well then you're just in luck. Here is the first part of the rhyme, as I had to learn it by heart. Up the Avon, 500 strides, to where the ancient ruin hides, 17 steps to the sunset's glow. The key fits there, as you shall know. Now it is up to you whether you are clever enough to understand the rhyme. If you do everything right, the second part awaits you at the wicket gate. More than that, I will not reveal." Timur, Marie, and also Grandma were astonished. "Well, that sounds truly exciting. A treasure, and apparently right on our doorstep. The old church mentioned here is the ruin down by the river. I know it, but that's all I know." You could tell that Grandma was now becoming very excited. "But I won't let you go to the ruin all by yourselves. I'm going with you. Come, we'll make a picnic basket full of good things to eat and drink, and then nothing will stand in the way of the first step of your treasure hunt." With that, she disappeared into the kitchen, where she packed cold roast chicken, a piece of cheese, some cake and fruit, a small thermos of coffee, and lemonade for the children. Then she locked the house, and the three of them set off, the key from the doll chest held firmly in hand, to solve the first task. They wandered over hill and dale, through meadows and fields, until in the early afternoon they stood before the old ruin that must once have been a church. Marie held up the note. "But what is meant by 'into the sunset'? And what do we do if there's no sunset today?" Timur wanted to know. Grandma had to think for a good while. "We'll have to wait a few hours until the sun starts to go down. It will probably be in that direction." With that, she rummaged an old compass out of her apron pocket and watched the compass needle as it slowly oriented itself to the north and then stopped. "Look, children, there is north." She pointed with her hand in one direction. "Then that must be south, opposite." Timur remembered. "In school we learned the sun rises in the east, in the south it climbs high, in the west it wants to set, in the north it is never seen." Now Marie had the idea, So we don't even need to wait until sunset if we already know that it sets in the west and we can see from the compass where west is." "Clever girl," said Grandma. "But then we also have a little time now to enjoy our picnic." With that, they made themselves comfortable in the grass by an old tree stump and ate and drank happily from the things they had brought. Thus fortified, they then set about taking the said 17 steps westwards from the ruined walls. Timur stood with his back to the wall and counted out 17 steps. Well, there was nothing there. Worse, there never seemed to have been anything there. But Marie had an idea. Maybe pirates take much bigger steps than we children do. Grandma, what do you think? That could well be. Go 17 steps again. And so Timur continued down the hill to the west, and after another 17 steps, stood at an old garden wall. The wall was full of vines, and you could see nothing where a key would have fitted. Grandma had a good thought. She explained it to the children like this: "I'll stay right here, and each of you walk along the wall. You go that way, Timur, and you, Marie, go along there. It must be here at the wall anyway, because otherwise there is nothing else west of the old ruin." The children set off enthusiastically and examined the wall very carefully between the vines. Soon, Timur called out, "I think I've found something!" Immediately, Marie and Grandma were on the spot, and indeed, Timur had found a completely rusted old iron frame where once perhaps a wrought iron wicket gate had been. "Oh, what a shame! The little gate is no longer there where the key might have fitted." Marie was a little sad. "We must take a very close look. The key would only have opened the gate, but it's no longer needed because it's already open. We have to get through the vines." "Timur is right again," said Grandma. Together they worked on an opening through the vines and were soon standing on the other side of the garden wall. "So, this is where the gate was. It must have opened to this side. You can still see that clearly on the frame. Here." Grandma pointed to the side where the gate must have been hinged. "Well, and now," Timur wanted to know, "let's look for a stick and then see what circle the gate described and where it touched the wall when it was fully open. Maybe we'll find a clue." "It's good that you have such a clever grandmother," Timur said to Marie, while they looked for a stick that was about as long as the opening in the garden wall was wide. In a vegetable patch that had not been tended for a long time, they found what they were looking for. A stick was stuck in the ground that was actually, Timur only had to break a little bit off, as long as the former door must have been wide. "Let's see." With that, Grandma took the stick from Timur's hand, placed it on the ground with one end exactly at the old frame. Then she moved the stick as if it had been the old door. A semicircle appeared on the ground. "Here, exactly here, the door handle of the garden gate must have hit the wall when it was opened all the way." And indeed, there was a brick there that was completely scratched. Timur looked for a bit, then tried to move the stone, and after a few unsuccessful attempts, he was able to loosen the stone. An opening appeared. "Well, Marie, are you afraid of spiders or woodlice?" "Nope," said Marie. "But if you have already been able to loosen the stone, then the honor of reaching in belongs to you." Of course, Timur was also afraid of spiders and woodlice, but he didn't want to show it. So he reached bravely into the wall opening, and with a cry of astonishment, his arm and then his hand reappeared. He was holding a tin can in his hand. "Hurrah! I think we have successfully completed the first part of the treasure hunt together." Grandma then also said, "We won't be able to get this old rusty can open here without any tools. We should do that at home with a good cup of hot chocolate." So they walked the long way back. When it was already dark, they sat in the shed, armed with screwdrivers, a hammer and other tools, and tried to open the can. The lid was rusted to the can, or it was stuck. In any case, it took quite a while before it gave way with a loud bang. "Otherwise, we would have just used a can opener," Timur said practically. There wasn't much in the can, except for an old piece of leather that had become very hard over the years, but it could still be unfolded, though with much effort. Well, The three treasure hunters were quite astonished when they found an envelope containing a letter written in the same handwriting as the first one, and another key. It said, "If you don't have the first key, the second one won't help you either. Look at them closely, and you should recognize two numbers. That is the number of the next steps. Starting from the ruins, the next path will be made. Count your steps into the dawn, no longer be afraid. Look upon the numbers, let your heart be bold. From now on you'll live in wealth, or so the tale is told." Immediately, the children began to examine the old keys, and indeed, Timur and Marie found two numbers on the keys. They were 2 and 8. And now we don't know whether it will be 28 steps or even 82 steps. Yes, we'll just have to try it out and pace it out. Timur had another flash of inspiration. If walking into the sunset means going west, then walking into the dawn can only mean going east, right? "You're a clever lad, Timur," said Grandma appreciatively. "Well, then we know how we'll spend tomorrow. I'll see if the old handcart still works, because I'm not lugging that heavy picnic basket all that long way again. And I'll take a blanket too, and a spade. Who knows what awaits us?" They made an appointment for the next day, and then the last part of the treasure hunt was to begin. Timur had to help his father in the stable in the morning, but at 10 o'clock he was at Marie's yard. Grandma and Marie had already been waiting quite excitedly. "Do you also have the keys?" "Here in my trouser pocket," Marie said, pointing to her side pocket. At the end of the long path, they stood once again at the old church ruins. Grandma had to sit down first and catch her breath. They had run faster today than yesterday afternoon because they absolutely wanted to find the treasure. The children sat down in the grass. Timur pondered. "If I had to go 2 times 17 steps yesterday because my steps are smaller than those of the pirates, then today I will have to count 2 times 28 or even 2 times 82 steps. Let's hope it's not 2 times 82, because then we'd be almost all the way back home." Grandma had to laugh and took out her old pocket compass again. "So, children, east would be roughly the direction we came from. But we have to, if we start exactly at the ruin wall, go up the hill." They went over to the old church ruin and were soon standing with their backs against the east-facing church wall. The children counted the steps together so that Timur wouldn't miscount in the excitement. "So, up to here, it's exactly 28. Can anyone see anything?" "Nope, you'll have to keep going." "So, another 28 steps." And Timur and Marie counted again. "It's no further here," the children called to Grandma, who was a bit slower. "What's there?" "There's a big stone in the way." "Well, we should take a close look at that. How many steps did you go, Timur?" "Exactly twice 28. Yes, there was quite a chunk of stone lying there, weighing a good few tons and probably having been there for a very long time. Marie had the idea of how to proceed. "We'll do it like yesterday. One goes around the stone this way and the other way. We'll examine the stone very closely. Maybe we'll find a clue." Since no one had a better idea, it was done exactly that way. The children almost bumped their heads together when they were on the other side of the big stone. There, just above the ground, almost completely covered with moss, they found a striking drawing in the stone. "Grandma, look, 2 keys have been carved into the rock." "Indeed." Timur lifted the spade from the handcart and began to dig. That was no pleasure, but after the grass and other plants were removed, it went a bit easier. Marie also wanted to dig for a while, and so the children took turns. They must have had to dig 1/2 meter deep before they hit something. It sounded hollow when the spade struck it. With their bare hands, they removed the earth, and finally a wooden board actually came to light, which soon turned out to be the lid of a chest. By the time they had cleared the whole treasure chest, however, it surely took another hour. It was hard work for the children, but Grandma also helped wherever she could. With a joint effort, they hoisted the chest onto the handcart, laid the blanket over it, and first recovered from the great ordeal. It was lucky that the provision basket was so richly laden, because everyone was ravenously hungry. "I wonder what's in the chest." Marie was curious. Who wouldn't have been curious at that moment? You too, surely, or am I mistaken? "Well, a treasure, that's for sure," Timur stated matter-of-factly. "But until we have cleared the chest of all the dirt and earth, we probably won't find out. And of course, we'd better do that at our home before any curious people happen to come by and ask stupid questions." Grandma had become cautious. The game had become serious, and now it was a matter of being careful. After all, there were envious people and busybodies everywhere. Phew, pulling and pushing the heavy chest full of dirt and earth all the way to Grandma's house was no easy feat, even on the handcart. But finally, they arrived exhausted in the yard in front of the shed. Everyone was terribly thirsty, so they pushed the cart quickly into the shed, locked it well, and went into the kitchen to drink a cold lemonade. From the kitchen, they took brooms and wire brushes with them. Now it was time to get down to business. The chest was to be opened today, so that they would finally find out what was inside. Heavy as it had been when lifting, it could not be empty, that was for certain. Timur found a spatula in the shed. With it, he could loosen the firm earth well from the chest. After quite a while, the lid was finally clean, and one could see where the front was and where the back was. The pirates had really thought of everything before they sank the chest into the ground. Around the locks, they had bound leather so that no earth could penetrate the lock. "I think we should put some oil in the keyhole anyway, so that a key doesn't break off on us at the last moment." "Timur, you think of everything. You'll definitely be a good craftsman one day." Grandma was amazed. "I learned that from my dad," Timur laughed. In fact, the locks were intact once the leather was unwound. A splash of oil here, a splash of oil there. Each of the children took a key and stuck it into the padlock. On one was the number 2, on the other the number 8. So you could hardly go wrong. With a little force, they turned the keys in the lock, and one lock after another snapped open. The tension rose to unbearable levels. Removing the locks, lifting back the bolts. Now you could probably lift the lid. But when an old lid like that has not been moved for 100 years, and has spent summers and winters, heat and ice and snow, then it no longer goes so easily. Grandma had to fetch a devil's claw from the back of the shed. That was what she called the short crowbar. She placed it at the edge of the lid, shifted her weight onto the iron, and finally, the chest lid moved. The children helped, and soon the lid swung back. You still couldn't see anything. In the chest were 4 large leather bags, nicely placed side by side, so that the whole chest was filled. But as to what was in the leather bags, you first had to lift the bags out of the chest and open them. Marie, together with Timur, grabbed the first leather bag, and they lifted it onto the table, where Grandma switched on a bright lamp. They poured out the contents and could not believe their eyes. Golden coins actually tumbled out of the leather bag. They examined the other bags, one after another, and found that each had exactly the same contents. Probably in the end, there were only 4 pirates who had wanted to divide the treasure fairly among themselves in this way. For what reasons it no longer came to that, Marie, Timur, and Grandma would probably never find out. But all 3 lived happily and contentedly until the end of their lives, just as it had been written in the second letter, without want. Each of the children kept one of the padlocks with the magnificent forged key for a lifetime. You just have to find the right key. It can change your whole life. That's what they said again and again. So pay attention if you should ever find a key.